Following the new era of Rainbow reactivated in the lore with the leadership of Paul Bishop, we were thrusted straight into the action. Seeing Bishop take down a faction of the Keres Legion and its leader Nyx, something we'll hopefully see more about, Ubisoft came swinging out the gates with this new era of Rainbow, sort of being a soft reboot for the narrative itself. But there are a few things which are currently up in the air for where we're about to go next and where the Season 3 Defender is going to fit in. Now, of course, we already know a few things about this Season 3 Defender. We know that they're going to be a shield counter, but there's already some other things that we can dissect and look into regarding this new operator. And the facts which I'm going to present, which make me believe that this might actually be a new Rainbow CBRN operator joining Legion and Lion. And yes, the return of the white masks. Now, the only visual official look we have at this operator actually comes from a Siege Tales animation. Now, although this is a fan-made animation, this was officially commissioned by Ubisoft to be the first ever official teaser for this new Defender. So it is an official look at the operator. How much does the design itself replicate the final product we're going to see? We don't know. Of course, it is just a silhouette, but it does seem like they do have earmuffs on, as well as sort of like a flicked up hairstyle. But the best thing that we can take from this is that it is going to be a handheld gadget used to, well, counter shields, just like what happens to Blackbeard and Monty in this animated trailer. But where is this going to fit in the narrative? Well, like I mentioned, Bishop, Dokkaebi, and Mute were able to take Nyx into custody, as well as this during Operation Silent Hunt, where we see Solid Snake and Sam Fisher infiltrate Calypso Casino and stop Eidolon. One of the things which Sam Fisher stumbles across is a biohazard case. Now, at the end of the Operation Silent Hunt comic book, he passes this biohazard case over to Bishop, and then Sam goes on his merry way to do, well, I don't know, Splinter Cell Death Watch, I assume? We don't actually know where Sam goes here. But Bishop is still in the process of building his rainbow, and this has to be specified as well that it is his rainbow. Although it is still GSAC, and there's clearly still conflict in the GSAC as well, what we know is that this is Bishop's rainbow, and he was called in for a reason. He was the ex-Rainbow 5, he's an experienced Rainbow operative, he was likely to become 6 if the initial deactivation prior to the 2015 roster never happened. So even with GSAC oversight, it seems that he is in a much stronger position to challenge their decisions, especially with him recruiting, or reselecting, shall I say, Brava after she received some GSAC scrutiny. So what sets Bishop apart from Harry the most is that Bishop is the one pulling the trigger. One of the biggest complaints which Ash had of Harry was that he wasn't the one pulling the trigger. He wasn't the one on the field. Paul Bishop is. So I think that's very important for this character and that new way which we are going to be seeing new operatives come to the team. And it is very possible that this new shield defender is a rainbow operative selected by Bishop, and we've never seen them before in the narrative. If this is the case, this technically would be the newest rainbow recruit in over 2 years narratively, because the latest recruit at that point would still be Raura. So not only is there a chance that this new operator is a rainbow op, I actually think if they are rainbow, they could also be a CBRN operator working alongside Lion and Lesion. And let me explain here. So the CBRN threat unit stands for the Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Threat Unit. This is a unit that would be formed inside of Rainbow in Operation Chimera to tackle any of these threats which may, pose a risk to the world. I mean, we saw all the way back in the lore of Rainbow Six 1998, if you didn't watch that video, that there was chemical, issues in that game as well. So a CBRN unit is something which is definitely needed inside of Rainbow, and it was created with Lion and Finka being recruited to spearhead the unit. As well as this, Legion would be added to the unit as well, making them the 3 CBRN operators inside of Rainbow. Now, when Finka would leave to join Nighthaven and pursue more CBRN research with them, that left just Lion and Legion in the CBRN unit. Now, let's cut to the current narrative, which I mentioned a minute ago, where Sam Fisher found the biohazard case and passed it over to Bishop. And what's very important to note here is that this isn't just a passing detail as well. This is something which is focused on in the story tab titled New Problems, New Rainbow, where a massive part of Bishop's concern is the biohazard case which Zero found. And he says, if it comes to that, I'll need CBRN specialists. and a bigger roster to support them. Reselection and candidate reviews are underway, as fast as GSAC will allow. We're facing a new generation of terrorism, and we need to meet it in kind. So just focus on what Bishop said there. He needs a bigger roster to support the CBRN specialists, and reselection and candidate reviews are underway. Now, reselection is what we see in the lore of this battle pass of the CBRN unit. We see that both Lion and Legion are called back into Rainbow to help with this case. We see Legion likely coming off a phone call with Bishop saying, "Of course, let me know if the lab finds any residue worth analyzing. I'll be on the plane in 12 hours. And then Lion, "I hate to leave my trainees, but if you say a chemical threat is coming, of course I'll be there. See you soon, Bishop." So that is Legion and Lion now back on board with Rainbow and being CBRN specialists helping with this case. Even though Finka did leave Rainbow for Nighthaven, she is currently retired and Nighthaven's had all those changes and stuff like that. And we did see in this battle pass as well that Bishop is open to bringing those ex-Rainbow operatives who left for Nighthaven into Rainbow in his new era of the team, but it does seem that Finka is out of work due to her health conditions and she is getting better. However, it doesn't seem like Finka will be involved in this plot. But that's half of what Bishop said, reselection. The next part, candidate reviews. Well, we have a new operator coming in Season 3. The chemical and bio weapon have been a major part in the lore setting this up, and of course Legion and Lion coming back to help handle this. Given all of this evidence, I strongly believe that the Season 3 Defender is going to be a brand new Rainbow recruit selected by Paul Bishop, placed in the CBRN unit with a specialty in this sector. I originally thought that maybe they were going to be a mercenary, a part of Arasis and a friend of Denari. And listen, maybe that's still the case. Maybe we don't see a CBRN operator until year 12, but I feel like because they've set it up so much over this year, and technically Season 3 is our only new Rainbow operator of the year, or potential Rainbow operator, because of course Solid Snake isn't a Rainbow operative. Dokkaebi was a remaster. This is our new operator, and then Season 4 is our final remaster. So technically in this year, Season 3 is our only opportunity for us to get a brand new character that can be a new Rainbow operative. So I feel like they are setting up this season with the bio weapon, with the CBRN unit, with Legion and Lion as well, clearly going to play a major part with this new operator. I would not be surprised if we see Legion and Lion being the two key operators working alongside this op in the cinematic. I just really got mercenary vibes from the Siege Tales trailer, especially with that sort of handheld cannon. And I know some of you may be thinking that, oh, well, what is that gadget got to do with a CBRN unit and stuff like that? Well, it can be twisted in any way. Gameplay and lore and all that stuff. You can twist gadgets and the meaning behind an operator. I mean, look at Lion. If we just got a teaser for an operator like Lion with a drone in the sky and we got a silhouette of him, you wouldn't instantly go, oh, this guy is a CBRN operator and deals with chemical threats. You know what I mean? You'd think maybe he's a tech operator because he has a big drone. So just because this person is a shield counter, it doesn't mean that they aren't, a part of a CBRN unit or can specialize in chemicals and stuff like that. Their gadget doesn't always have to be fully entwined to who they are as a character and a lot of their lore behind it. But I'm sure if this is a CBRN operator, they will play this gadget into play. They will incorporate shields in this plot as well. They'll make it worth the while with this character being a CBRN operative, but I definitely think that is the case. I did have that running theory for the longest, that this was going to be one of Denari's mercenaries, this was going to be an Arasis operative, but the more I've looked into it, the more I've read over all of this stuff, I think it's very clear and evident that this is going to be our third CBRN operative inside of Rainbow, which would actually be really beautiful because although we did lose Finka for Nighthaven, she still exists in the plot. She was still, the third CBRN operative. I guess Legion was technically the third CBRN operative, but if we actually look back to the concept art for Operation Chimera, where we got the introduction of the CBRN unit, we were actually meant to get 3 operators in that season. It was meant to be Lion, Finka, and a British CBRN operator by the codename of Damp. Now, Damp would actually then be scrapped and we wouldn't see the light of day with Damp, but considering that Damp was meant to be a black British woman, it does seem that they sort of reworked that early concept of who she was going to be and applied her a few seasons later to Clash, and of course we have Clash to this day. So, I don't know, there's a fun little R6 fact. It does seem that Clash was originally started off as the third CBRN operator by the name of Damp, but then they sort of reworked her and then changed it to the version of Clash we've seen. I mean, it was likely that they probably had different backstories, but they kept the same nationality and ethnicity and everything like that as well. So yeah, that's a cool little fact. But yeah, I think if this new operator is a CBRN operative, I think that's really cool because technically we were meant to have 3 in those early stages, and then I guess when Legion joined the unit he filled that void as well, but now we're back down to 2, so it feels appropriate to have a 3rd CBRN operative once again. But let's say this is correct and my theory is right, and I do want to say I do have a good track record with theories. Where is the plot actually going here? Is this bioweapon a part of another faction of the Keres Legion? Have we seen all we've seen of Nyx? We knew that her specialty was technological warfare and, you know, taking down the whole infrastructure of pretty much like the internet and stuff like that. Like, she was a tech side of the Keres Legion. You know, Deimos was using explosives and very on the field. Him and Phobos were very physical. They were manufacturing explosive. Nyx, she was going for infrastructure and stuff like that. And ArcNet, you know, cybersecurity, Solus and Dokkaebi were tackling that. So are we now going to see another side of the Keres Legion, which are chemical? And if we are looking at another faction of the Keres Legion, which are focused on chemical warfare and these different types of bioterrorism and stuff like that, it does obviously leave the obvious theory on, is this a return of the White Masks? Are they going to work it into the story that the White Masks are back? Is it crazy to assume that the Keres Legion maybe helped jumpstart the White Masks again, gave them funding? I mean, look at Fenrir, for example. Deimos saw what he wanted from Fenrir. He wanted Fenrir to work on a bioweapon. What did he do? He gave him the funding. He exploited him. He lied to him to get what he wanted. Now, Fenrir, being a good person, realized he was being tricked and he fled to Rainbow. He helped Rainbow. That was Deimos' biggest mistake there, was Fenrir's humanity and Fenrir saving the day. Him being a good person was the flaw in Deimos' plan there. However, if you can exploit a good person that far and almost get what you need, imagine what you can do with someone who's a bad person, who has bad intentions, like the White Masks. Just like with any terrorist group in the world, you never get rid of all of them. You can dismantle them enough that their infrastructure collapses and they're no longer a major threat, but there'll always be cells out there. There'll always be sympathizers. There'll always be people fighting for that cause. And when I went to Montreal in February and we done that Q&A with the narrative team, I asked them, will we ever see the White Masks again? And they said, it's a very strong possibility that in this universe, there are some White Masks out there. Heck, they didn't even say it was a strong possibility. They just said, yeah, I mean, that's very likely. Because, like what I said a second ago, you never get rid of the entire group. It's just a fact. You cannot get rid of an ideology that people follow. So you have to remember, Rainbow has been gone for 2 years. Now, we have factions of the Keres Legion, we have Rainbow reactivated to fight them, and we now have a chemical threat. Can you imagine Season 3 launching with the White Masks, which are now funded by the Keres Legion, and sort of a subsidized faction of the Keres Legion, with all these chemical threats, and we are seeing Paul Bishop's Rainbow with Legion, Lion, and a brand new operator spearheading the CBRN threat unit, and the fight is against a new Keres White Mask sort of merged, and we could see like really cool Keres Legion-esque White Mask uniforms. I know I kind of sound just like a nerd with my action figures splashing them together right now, but this is genuinely a real thing that could happen. Like, they have stuff in place here. We have the fact that the White Masks are still out there somewhere. We have the fact that there is a chemical threat. We have Bishop clearly seeing this threat and actively working for that with the GSAC to counteract this. He knows what's coming. I think this is definitely a plausible theory, and I think it would help tie the White Masks back into the lore, and I think it just makes sense for the new operator. But as I mentioned, maybe they are just an Erasmus mercenary and they counter shields. Maybe it's not that deep. But they always set up the new operators with the narrative. Like, for example, in Detroit, when, you know, Denari was about to be introduced, Callie said that she's bringing in, you know, Denari. She didn't say it explicitly, but she says, you know, right, I'm bringing him in. I know you've got grievances with Impulse, but we need this mission to be a success. So that was a clear, okay, our next operator is from Nighthaven. Callie is bringing someone in. So with our only setup here being the bioweapon, being the CBRN unit, I can't see this new operator being anything other than this. But yeah, that is my theory for the brand new operator for Rainbow Six Siege Year 11 Season 3, the shield counter. Let me know if you want me to make more videos about them, maybe from a gameplay perspective as well. And of course, stay tuned for the reveal and everything. I'll have everything posted here. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Just catch you all later. Have a good one. And yeah, stay safe.